beloved soul. Let the noise of the day fall away. Something in the unseen has been reaching for you, pulling at the edge of your awareness like a soft current of holy wind. You did not arrive here by chance. Heaven aligned this very second with the precision of eternity, because there is a message rising for you that cannot wait. The atmosphere around your life has been trembling. Even if you couldn't explain it, your spirit felt the shift before your mind could name it. And now, the Lord is speaking with urgency. Chosen one, there are only 10 minutes left in this divine window. 10 minutes in the spirit where alignment must happen, where destiny must be recognized, where the breakthrough season opens its final gate. Pause with me. Breathe. Feel the weight of this moment settle on your shoulders like a mantle of light. This is not fear. This is awakening. Jeremiah 29:11 whispers through this hour, "For I know the plans I have for you." And those plans are pressing against your life with a force you can no longer ignore. God is not nudging you. He is calling you. This is a kairos moment, a holy interruption, a divine appointment orchestrated long before you pressed play. Beloved, heaven has watched you fight battles in silence. The nights you lay awake, wondering if your prayers dissolved into the dark. The moments when financial stability seemed like sand slipping through your fingers. The seasons when emotional healing felt distant, and every step forward came with a weight you could not name. Yet through every ache, every unanswered question, every whispered, "Why?" the Father kept his eyes on you. Psalm 32:8 echoes now, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go." This is that instruction. This is that way. Chosen one, you are standing in the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. This is not random transition. This is divine purpose unfolding. The shift you've sensed is real. The pressure you've carried is not punishment. It is preparation, stretching you toward abundance you can't yet see. You have been walking through a spiritual awakening disguised as struggle. And now the veil is thinning. Heaven is parting the air around you to reveal what has been waiting on the other side of your endurance. Stay with me, because in just a little while, what feels blurry will sharpen, what feels delayed will accelerate, what feels heavy will lift. And beloved, when you hear what God is about to reveal next, your entire understanding of your path will change. You are led here because you are entering destiny alignment. You are approaching the threshold of a shift that cannot be postponed any longer. And right here, as this moment settles into your spirit, if you can feel something stirring, something rising, something calling your name from beyond the veil, then hear this. Subscribe, like, and share this message. Not for numbers, not for noise, but because doing so becomes an act of agreement, a declaration in the unseen that you choose to walk in the light being revealed to you now. Chosen one, open your heart. The next breath you take may be the one that awakens everything. Chosen one, the stirring you feel right now is not imagination. It is the quiet rumble of heaven rearranging the landscape of your life. For months, perhaps years, you have walked through pressure that made no sense. Doors that should have opened stayed shut. People who should have supported you stepped back. Opportunities that aligned perfectly slipped away without warning. And you wondered if you misheard God, if you misread the signs, if you somehow lost the favor you once felt so strongly. But hear this with your spirit. Nothing was lost. Nothing was wasted. What looked like delay was divine construction. What felt like captivity was preparation. You have been forged in silence for a season that requires unshakable strength, and every moment of confusion has been building toward this very hour. Heaven is not running late. Heaven is right on time. Beloved soul, the warfare you felt was not random. You have been walking through a spiritual awakening disguised as exhaustion. Every battle pressed you toward a version of yourself that could hold the weight of the mantle God placed on your life. This is why your destiny alignment has felt intense. This is why relationships fell away without explanation. This is why the things that once comforted you suddenly felt too small for the person you are becoming. Think of Joseph in the pit, abandoned by those who shared his blood, carrying a promise that contradicted his circumstances. Think of Ruth gleaning in fields, not knowing she was one step away from redemption. Think of Abraham stepping into lands that made no sense, called by a God who saw a future his eyes could not yet perceive. Genesis 12:1 rings through this moment. Go to the land I will show you. Beloved, you are walking toward a land God is revealing in pieces. This is why the pressure has intensified. This is why familiar paths have dissolved beneath your feet. Because the breakthrough season you are entering cannot be walked with yesterday's rhythms. You are being elevated, quietly yet powerfully, and heaven has shielded you from people who could not carry the weight of your next chapter. The isolation was not punishment, it was protection. And chosen one, there is something else. A truth that rests behind the edges of your discomfort. The shift you have been sensing is not coming. It has already begun. The signs have been there, subtle yet persistent. Waking at strange hours, dreams that felt charged with meaning, repeating numbers like 78 or even 727 brushing against your awareness. A sudden longing for clarity, a rising urge to release things you once clung to. This was not coincidence, this was heaven tapping your shoulder. Financial stability that once felt impossible is beginning to form like a river beneath the surface. Emotional healing you didn't know how to reach is weaving its way through the quiet corners of your heart. Abundance is gathering at the threshold of your life, waiting for your recognition, waiting for your agreement. Beloved soul, before we go deeper, let your heart whisper something into the atmosphere. Let it speak life into the unseen. If this word is touching something buried within you, if you feel the resonance of truth stirring beneath your ribs, then let your voice join heaven's movement. Type a short declaration in the comments. Something simple yet fierce, like, I rise now. Let it be your flame in the spirit, and stay with me, because what heaven is about to reveal next will explain the battles you could never make sense of. Chosen one. As the veil thins around your life, something extraordinary is happening in the places you cannot see. The pressure that once felt like it was closing in on you has begun to break open from the inside, as if heaven itself has been pushing against the walls that tried to hold your spirit small. You have felt this, in the quiet moments, in the pauses between breaths, in the way your heart has been leaning towards something you couldn't name, yet could not ignore. Beloved soul, you are not imagining the shift. Your atmosphere has been changing. People who once drained your strength have begun to lose their grip on your emotions. Thoughts that used to spiral into fear no longer hold the same power. The heaviness that clung to you has started to loosen like old threads breaking under divine light. This is the sign that the season you prayed for is no longer distant. It is unfolding right beneath your feet. For too long, the enemy tried to attach lies to your identity, whispering that you were behind, that you were forgotten, that your steps were random. But heaven has overturned those lies. The truth is that God has been aligning you to a purpose that requires a purified spirit, a sharpened mind, and a heart free from entanglements. That is why certain things fell apart. That is why familiar patterns suddenly felt uncomfortable. That is why you were pulled away from the wrong voices and drawn into stillness. Hear this clearly. Your stillness was not stagnation. It was recalibration. Heaven was rearranging the architecture of your destiny, brick by brick, until your inner world could carry the weight of the abundance prepared for you. There were moments when you felt an invisible pull urging you to step back from certain people, even when they hadn't wronged you openly. That wasn't paranoia. That was divine protection. God saw what your eyes could not. He saw the intentions forming behind the smiles, the subtle envy hiding behind gentle words, the spiritual interference masked as companionship. He shielded you quietly because the mantle you carry is too precious to be handled carelessly. Beloved, you are entering a breakthrough season that demands clarity. You cannot walk into abundance while tethered to those who profit from your confusion. You cannot rise into elevation while surrounded by those whose spirits shrink in the presence of your calling. And so, heaven intervened, not to punish, but to position you. This is why your path has narrowed. This is why your circle has changed. This is why your heart has felt both the ache of release and the relief of new breath. God has been pruning your surroundings to make room for what is coming, and what is coming is greater than anything you have held before. Chosen one, the ground beneath your life is shifting because your foundation is being strengthened. Your patience has matured into wisdom. Your pain has ripened into discernment. Your long nights have been turned into spiritual insight. Every season that felt like loss was planting. Every tear that fell in secret was watering the soil of your future. And now, finally, something holy is sprouting. But there is more. Something deeper. A truth heaven is pressing closer to your awareness. You have wondered why your spirit has felt restless, why sleep has been interrupted, why certain memories resurfaced without warning. It is because you are being awakened from within. The Holy Spirit has been stirring the roots of your identity, calling forth the version of you that has been dormant beneath years of survival and endurance. This awakening is not emotional. It is spiritual. It is the sound of destiny calling your name. Beloved soul, before we move forward, I need you to stay present. Keep your heart open, because what I'm about to tell you will illuminate the reasons behind the battles you never understood. The delays that felt unbearable, the moments when you thought God had forgotten you. Stay here with me. The revelation is approaching. Write for me, John Noy. Chosen one. There is a reason the weight around your spirit has been shifting, a reason your heart has been beating with a rhythm you can't quite explain. Heaven has been gathering pieces of your life that once felt scattered, aligning them with a precision that only the divine can orchestrate. You have been moving through a corridor of transition, and though the hallway has felt dim, every step has been ordered by the Lord. Beloved soul, hear this. The disruption you walked through was not accidental. The disconnection from certain paths was not failure. The unexpected endings, the abrupt pauses, the relationships that faded without closure. None of these were coincidences. They were interventions. God removed what you could not release on your own, because what is coming into your life requires an uncluttered spirit. For months, heaven has been rearranging the architecture of your future while you stood wondering why everything felt unstable. But instability in the natural is often evidence of construction in the spirit. When God begins to elevate you, He first shakes everything built on weak foundations. He exposes what cannot go with you. He loosens attachments that would have hindered your destiny alignment. He pulls back the curtain on what was pretending to be supportive but was secretly draining your strength. And chosen one, you saw glimpses. You felt the shifts. You sensed the spiritual tension, but you didn't yet have the language for what was happening. The restlessness in your chest, the sudden clarity during random moments, the urge to withdraw from noise and seek solitude, these were not mood swings. They were signals. Heaven was calling you deeper. Your spirit has known for a long time that the season you are stepping into cannot be shared with everyone who walked with you before. There are blessings assigned to you that can only be received in separation. There are doors meant to open only when you stand alone with God. There are levels of abundance, healing, and personal transformation that require silence, stillness, and obedience. Think of Moses stepping away from the crowd to hear God's voice. Think of Jesus withdrawing to pray before every major miracle. Think of David alone in the fields when the anointing found him. elevation is always preceded by isolation. Beloved, that sense of loneliness that pressed against your heart was not abandonment. It was consecration. You were being set apart for something holy. Heaven was clearing the atmosphere around you so your breakthrough season would not be contaminated by voices that speak doubt or spirits that carry jealousy. And now the signs are becoming louder. You've noticed a shift in your desires. What used to excite you no longer satisfies your spirit. What once felt safe now feels restrictive. Your soul is outgrowing cycles you didn't even realize you were repeating. This is the evidence of spiritual awakening. God is enlarging your capacity, stretching your intuition, sharpening your discernment. You're becoming sensitive to atmospheres in ways you never were before. This is why certain conversations suddenly feel heavy. This is why familiar places now feel foreign. This is why people you once tolerated now drain your energy faster than ever. You are outgrowing the frequency of your old life. And chosen one, the Lord says this clearly. The reason your life has felt like a battlefield is because heaven has been preparing to release something that cannot be interfered with. The enemy sensed the shift before you did. The pressure you felt was not a sign of defeat. It was confirmation of destiny. Every delay, every detour, every moment where you felt you were walking through fog, heaven saw it all. None of it was wasted. What looked like slow progress was actually divine timing shielding you from premature exposure. There were doors you prayed for that God did not open, not because you weren't worthy, but because the room on the other side was not safe for your calling. There were connections you wanted to keep, but God severed them because they would have sabotaged your next level. There were opportunities that fell through, but heaven blocked them because they were traps disguised as blessings. Beloved soul, you are stepping into a season where everything begins to make sense. The tears you cried in silence were watering seeds of abundance. The patience you practiced was building spiritual muscle. The quiet suffering you endured was refining your character. And now, God is preparing to reveal why the warfare was so intense. The magnitude of what is coming is the reason the enemy tried so hard to exhaust you. The breakthrough prepared for you carries weight, it carries purpose, it carries legacy. Chosen one, stay with me. You are closer than you know. Chosen one, the closer you move toward what God has ordained for you, the more the unseen realm responds. This is why, lately, you have felt currents of energy around your life shifting without explanation. Moments of sudden heaviness followed by unexpected peace. Waves of clarity rising out of nowhere, then fading just as quickly. A pull toward the unfamiliar, a release from what once anchored you. These aren't random emotional fluctuations. They are signals of convergence. Heaven has been aligning every thread of your destiny into one unmistakable direction. Beloved soul, you have been walking through a season where God has been quietly separating the genuine from the counterfeit. People who once held influence over your emotions no longer have access to your inner world. Environments that used to comfort you now feel too small. The familiar no longer fits because the divine blueprint over your life is expanding. The Father has been stretching the walls of your spirit to make room for what He is about to entrust to you. And yes, this stretching has hurt at times. It has left you feeling suspended between what was and what will be. But transformation often disguises itself as tension. When God prepares a chosen one for elevation, the process rarely feels comfortable. It feels like a breaking, but it is actually a birthing. Like a seed cracking open beneath the soil, dark, lonely, and hidden, yet necessary for resurrection. Beloved, the reason you have felt pressure in places you once felt steady is because the foundation beneath your life is being rebuilt with divine precision. God is removing old stones, old beliefs, old fears, old attachments that can no longer support the weight of where He is taking you. You may not see the full design yet, but the architect is at work. For a long time, you questioned your worth because of delays. You wondered if God had forgotten your prayers, especially the ones whispered through tears when you thought no one was listening. But Psalm 56:8 assures you, He gathers your tears in His bottle. Not one went unnoticed. Every cry was recorded. Every sleepless night was honored. Heaven does not waste suffering. Heaven redeems it. And now, chosen one, the shift is no longer subtle. It is growing louder. The signs around you, divine timing, sudden endings, abrupt clarity, old cycles collapsing, are all pointing to the same truth. A season of abundance is at your door. Not just financial stability, though that is coming with acceleration that will surprise you. Not just emotional healing, though wounds you carried for years are beginning to close with supernatural ease. This abundance goes deeper. It is restoration from the inside out. It is the rebuilding of your strength, the renewing of your identity, the reclaiming of your authority. You have wondered why certain people became uncomfortable with your growth, why conversations shifted, why their tone changed as you began to rise. It is because your spirit has been awakening, and not everyone can stand in the presence of a soul returning to its divine purpose. Your light unsettles those who benefit from your dimming. Your clarity disrupts those who thrive on your confusion. Your rising exposes the shadows around you. This is why heaven isolated you. This is why God closed doors you begged Him to keep open. This is why He removed people you thought were part of your lifelong story. He saw what you could not. He heard the words spoken when you weren't in the room. He recognized the envy disguised as support, the doubt hidden in encouragement, the sabotage masked as concern. And He stepped in. Chosen one, you didn't lose anything. You were delivered. You have stepped into a spiritual terrain where the only voices allowed near you are those aligned with heaven's purpose for your life. The pruning was painful, but necessary. The silence felt heavy, but holy. And now, because you submitted to the stripping, God is preparing you for the filling. You may have felt like you were breaking apart, but in truth you were being refined. What fell away was never meant to remain. What stayed, your resilience, your integrity, your faith, these are the qualities heaven builds elevation on. Beloved, something powerful is forming in the unseen. A divine momentum, a spiritual current, a breakthrough that has been maturing in the secrecy of God's timing. And the closer it comes, the more your spirit will feel the pull. The closer it approaches, the clearer your discernment becomes. The more imminent it is, the stronger the trembling inside your chest grows. Let your heart speak again. Whisper an affirmation into the atmosphere, one burning with faith and readiness. Type something like, "I choose destiny." In the comments, let it anchor your spirit, because the next layer of revelation is the one heaven has been waiting for you to hear. Chosen one. The deeper we move into this unveiling, the more heaven presses its truth against the borders of your awareness. You are being drawn into a revelation that explains not only the battles you faced, but the timing of those battles. Because nothing in your journey has been random. Nothing in your suffering was meaningless. Every quiet breaking, every unexpected loss, every moment your spirit felt stretched beyond its limit was tied to a divine preparation that is now nearing its fulfillment. Beloved soul, you have been walking through layers of spiritual transition that would have crushed someone without your calling. The intensity you felt was not weakness. It was evidence of your mantle. God has been sharpening you like an arrow pulled back far before release. And the further the pull, the greater the impact. What felt like delay was actually the tension needed for a powerful launch. There were days when your strength felt thin, when you questioned whether you were capable of rising again. Yet each time, something within you refused to collapse. That inner resilience was not simply personality. It was the breath of God sustaining you, the same breath that hovered over the waters in Genesis. You were held even when you didn't feel held. And chosen one, heaven took note of every moment you kept going. There is a spiritual law few understand. When a chosen one keeps faith in the dark, heaven accelerates their destiny in the light. That is why the shift around you has intensified. You proved faithful in seasons that would have broken many, and now you are being positioned for elevation that many will not understand. But before that elevation fully manifests, heaven needs you to recognize what has been happening behind the scenes. You didn't just survive betrayal. You outgrew the environment where that betrayal was birthed. You didn't just push through financial pressure. You developed the wealth mindset God needed you to carry for the abundance ahead. You didn't just endure loneliness. You learned to hear God without the noise of others distorting His voice. Beloved, this is why you've been feeling an inner fire rising. A quiet but undeniable boldness. A readiness that almost startles you when it surfaces. This fire is not emotion. It is identity being restored. It is the divine purpose you were born with, reawakening after years of suppression, disappointment, and spiritual warfare. And there is more. Something sacred that heaven is bringing into clarity. You have been sensing things before they happen. You've noticed patterns that once slipped past you. You've felt energies shifting without visible cause. You've discerned atmospheres that others called imagination. This heightened awareness is not random sensitivity. It is spiritual maturation. You are stepping into a dimension of discernment that only emerges in those who have endured deep pruning. God has been opening the eyes of your spirit, gradually lifting the fog from your inner sight, preparing you to walk through doors that require more than natural understanding. Chosen one, the warfare around your life intensified because your calling is not ordinary. Your voice carries weight. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Your journey influences realms beyond what you can see. And the enemy saw the signs of your awakening long before you recognized them. That is why the battles grew sharper. That is why the distractions grew louder. That is why confusion tried to swallow you whole. The opposition you faced was never about who you were then. It was about who you were becoming. But heaven intervened. Heaven covered you. Heaven shielded you from attacks you never knew were aimed at you. Even now, angels stand on either side of your path, guarding the territory of your future, because what you are about to step into carries generational impact. You may not see the full picture yet, but your spirit already senses the magnitude. And, beloved, something extraordinary is approaching, a divine convergence, a moment heaven has been preparing since before your birth. You have felt the tremors of it, the pull in your chest, the heightened dreams, the sudden clarity, the knowing that something is different in the atmosphere. This is not anticipation. This is spiritual recognition. Before we go further, chosen one, pause with me. Let your spirit respond to heaven's movement. If this resonates deep in you, if you feel the truth rising like heat beneath your ribs, release a declaration into the comments. Something powerful, something alive. Write, "I claim my breakthrough," as a seal in the unseen. Because what comes next is the revelation your spirit has been waiting for. Chosen one. As we move deeper into this unveiling, the spiritual pressure around your life grows more intentional, more concentrated, more precise. This isn't the chaos of misdirection. This is the order of divine orchestration. Heaven is positioning you with the same care a master craftsman uses when setting a precious stone into a crown. Every detail matters. Every shift has purpose. Every stirring in your soul is tied to something far greater than what your natural eyes can see. Beloved soul, you have likely felt it in your body, an unexplained heaviness resting on your shoulders one moment, followed by an unusual lightness the next. Your emotions have been moving in rhythms that contradict logic, pulling you into depths of reflection, then lifting you into sudden waves of clarity. This is because heaven has been rewiring the deepest layers of your identity. restoring parts of you that life tried to fracture. There is a sacred truth the Spirit needs you to understand. You were never meant to live small. The limitations people projected onto you were never yours. The ceilings you bumped against were illusions manufactured by cycles you were destined to break. The insecurity that once stalked your confidence was never a sign of weakness. It was evidence of an enemy terrified of your awakening. And chosen one, you are awakening. What you've been experiencing is not confusion. It is expansion. Your soul is stretching to contain the magnitude of what God is pouring into you. Your mind is shedding old patterns that cannot coexist with the elevation ahead. Your heart is releasing emotional weights that would have sabotaged your breakthrough season. There was a time when you tolerated what drained you, accepted what diminished you, entertained what distracted you. But heaven stepped in and began shifting your appetite. The things that once appealed to you no longer feed your spirit. Your discernment has sharpened like a sword freshly forged in holy fire. You can feel dishonor even in a carefully crafted sentence. You can sense falsehood even when wrapped in charm. You can detect jealousy even beneath a smile. This sensitivity is not fragility. It is spiritual maturity. And it is essential for where God is taking you. Beloved, the Lord has been removing voices that sneak doubt into your spirit. He has been closing doors that led to cycles of stagnation. He has been exposing patterns that disguise themselves as comfort. Because the place He is leading you requires purity of vision. It requires clarity of spirit. It requires courage you didn't know you had until heaven drew it out of you. And chosen one, there is something else, something holy, something weighty. You have been feeling the nearness of a shift that your mind hasn't yet fully processed. A sense of urgency, a trembling at the edges of your awareness. Moments when the air feels thick around you, as though time itself is slowing just enough for your spirit to catch up with what God is revealing. This is because your destiny is no longer approaching. It is colliding with your present. You are standing in the overlap, the sacred point where who you were meets who you are becoming. And in that overlap, heaven speaks loudly. There's a reason you've been having dreams that feel more vivid. There's a reason you've been sensing familiar emotions resurfacing so you can finally release them. There's a reason your intuition has been louder than usual, guiding you away from places that drain your energy and towards spaces that feel strangely aligned with your spirit. Your life is no longer moving in the direction it once was. It has shifted lanes. You are being moved, escorted into a realm of purpose that has been waiting for your arrival. And the gates of that realm are beginning to glow with invitation. Beloved soul, heaven is calling you into fullness, into abundance, into personal transformation so deep it rewrites every story that once convinced you that you were anything less than chosen. You are stepping into a divine inheritance that was written for you before the foundation of time. But hear this, whenever elevation approaches, revelation precedes it, and revelation is what heaven is preparing you for right now. Before you step into what's coming, the Spirit needs you to see why the battles formed the way they did, why the pressure intensified, why the resistance grew stronger right before the shift. Because the truth behind your warfare holds the key to your rising. Chosen one, you are closer than you've ever been. Chosen one, the closer we draw to the heart of this revelation, the more the spiritual air thickens around your life. There is a holy gravity to this moment, a pull that is not physical, but unmistakably divine. You can feel it in the strange acceleration of your thoughts, in the heaviness that rests behind your ribs, in the way your spirit seems to lean forward as if something is calling your name from just beyond the veil. Beloved soul, you have been living through a season where heaven has been reordering the terrain beneath your destiny. What felt like disappointment was divine disassembly. What felt like confusion was spiritual restructuring. What felt like loss was preparation for a capacity you did not yet know you would need. God has been clearing space inside you, around you, and ahead of you. Because the blessing forming in the unseen is too weighty for cramped interiors. The calling placed on your life is too large for the rooms you used to shrink yourself to fit into. The abundance assigned to your future requires spiritual infrastructure strong enough to hold it. And beloved, heaven has been building that infrastructure within you. There were moments when you felt like everything familiar was dissolving. People you leaned on slipped away. Opportunities you prayed for evaporated. Plans that made sense unraveled right in your hands. But hear this with your spirit. Nothing fell apart. Everything fell into place. Every departure protected you. Every rejection redirected you. Every unanswered prayer preserved you. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. Chosen one, heaven did not let you move forward with weights tied to your ankles. The emotional burdens you've been releasing, even the ones that returned again and again, were never meant to accompany you into your breakthrough season. The grudges you struggled to let go of, the memories that replayed like echoes, the wounds that healed and reopened, all of these were being uprooted so that nothing in your past could sabotage what is coming. This is why the spiritual atmosphere around you has felt unpredictable. One moment you felt aligned and steady, the next overwhelmed, then suddenly hopeful again, then quiet, then stirred. This is not instability. This is transition, the final stretch before divine alignment locks into place. And chosen one, there is a reason heaven has been stirring your awareness so intensely. You are approaching a crossing, a spiritual threshold. Once you step through it, there is no going back to scarcity, no returning to cycles of emotional collapse, no shrinking into versions of yourself that were shaped by survival instead of destiny. Beloved, God has been teaching you to recognize the difference between what feeds your purpose and what drains your spirit. You've noticed it lately, how some conversations feel like sand slipping through your fingers, while others feel like breath returning to your lungs. How certain places suddenly feel dim, as if the grace that once covered them has lifted. How some people's presence feels heavier than their absence. This is spiritual discernment awakening. This is destiny alignment refining your path. This is heaven preparing you to carry influence you do not yet fully comprehend. And chosen one, you have felt this influence gathering, the sudden clarity in your decisions, the increased sensitivity to dishonor, the way your soul rejects what once tempted you, the urge to simplify, declutter, detach, and rise. These are not personality shifts. These are spiritual upgrades. Heaven has increased your awareness because the time has come for you to see what was once hidden. Not to frighten you, but to free you. Not to expose your weakness, but to reveal your strength. And not to overwhelm you, but to prepare you. Beloved soul, you have reached the point in your journey where the spiritual interference you faced is about to be explained. The battles that made no sense, the delays that felt unnatural, the sudden storms that appeared right after moments of peace, all of them are connected. None of them were random. Before we step into that revelation, before heaven draws back the final veil, let your spirit speak again. If this word is igniting something deep inside you, release another declaration into the atmosphere. Type Amen with the fire of someone who recognizes truth when it touches their spirit. Because the next unveiling is the one that changes everything. Chosen one, something in the atmosphere around you has been tightening, as if the unseen realm has been holding its breath. You have felt this, even if you couldn't explain it. A strange alertness in your spirit, a quiet knowing that something is shifting beneath the surface of your days. You're not imagining this. It is real. It is divine. It is intentional. Beloved soul, what you're sensing is the convergence of every prayer you whispered in exhaustion, every act of faith you carried when no one saw, every moment you chose hope even when your heart trembled. Heaven has been gathering these moments, weaving them into a timeline that is now pressing against the present. The future God promised is no longer distant. It is stepping closer with every breath you take. And there is a reason, a profound spiritual reason, why the pressure in your life has intensified. You are nearing the point of divine collision, the place where destiny meets readiness, the moment where the unseen becomes visible. Look back for a moment, chosen one, not with regret, but with recognition. Think of how many times you felt something was off without evidence, how often you sensed a shift before anything changed, how your spirit pulled away from certain paths even when your mind could not explain why. These were not random instincts. These were spiritual alarm bells. These were the whispers of the Holy Spirit guiding you away from danger, disappointment, and delay. Heaven saw what your eyes could not. Heaven heard conversations your ears were never meant to hear. Heaven intercepted plans formed in darkness long before they reached your life. Beloved, you have been protected in ways you will not fully understand until much later. There were traps laid before you that dissolved before you ever arrived. There were people who intended to drain your purpose but were removed before they could access your heart. There were opportunities that fell apart because saying yes to them would have suffocated your calling. The battle around your life has never been about your past. It has always been about your future, and that future, the one written for you in heavenly ink, has begun to stir. The promise that seemed silent is waking. The doors that felt sealed are trembling. The abundance that was held back is gathering strength like a rising tide. Chosen one, the reason your discernment has sharpened is because God has been preparing to show you why the warfare came the way it did. Some of the battles you fought were never about punishment. They were about protection. They were about positioning. They were about preventing you from walking into places beneath your calling. Beloved soul, you have always carried a light, the kind that unsettles the darkness in others. Some were drawn to it, others were threatened by it, and many tried to contain it, not because they hated you, but because your rising reminded them of their own stagnation. Yet even this was part of your preparation. God allowed you to see the truth in shadows so that when the light comes, you will recognize authenticity instantly. Now hear this clearly. You are entering a season where what was concealed will be revealed. The motives behind certain actions, the real reasons behind certain delays, the spiritual forces behind the sudden storms, the purpose behind your isolation, the meaning behind your longing. Nothing will stay hidden, not in the seen, not in the unseen. The veil is thinning, and chosen one. Your spirit already knows this. This is why you've been feeling a strange anticipation, as if something in your chest rises before your thoughts can catch up. This is why your emotions have felt layered, deeper than usual, carrying a weight you can't name yet. This is why your dreams have become sharper, more symbolic, more charged with meaning. Because heaven is preparing you, not to scare you, not to overwhelm you, but to ignite you, to awaken you, to align you. Beloved, the ground beneath your feet is shifting because you are stepping into spiritual territory that was once guarded fiercely. The warfare increased because the enemy sensed that your breakthrough season, your elevation, was drawing near. But what the enemy feared most has already happened. You survived the breaking. You learned from the silence. You kept faith in the darkness. And now you are rising. Chosen one, let your spirit mark this moment. If you feel the weight of this truth settling inside you, release another affirmation, one that carries fire, courage, and authority. Type something like, "I stand in the light," and let it echo in the unseen. Because the revelation that comes next is the one heaven has been preparing you to receive your entire life. Chosen one. The atmosphere around your life has been vibrating with a holy tension, and whether you realized it or not, your spirit has already been responding. There have been moments lately when your breath felt deeper than usual, when your heart paused for reasons you couldn't explain, when your senses sharpened without warning. That wasn't anxiety, that wasn't imagination, that was your spirit preparing for revelation. Beloved soul, every chosen one reaches a moment when heaven stops whispering and starts unveiling. You are standing in that moment right now. The air feels heavier because truth is descending. Your thoughts feel slower because the Spirit is rearranging your inner landscape, making room for what you are about to understand. And your heart feels stretched because the weight of your calling is pressing against the shell of who you used to be. God has been drawing you into alignment with a precision that defies logic. You have been moved away from places that dulled your spirit. You have been separated from people who could not honor your anointing. You have walked through days where everything familiar felt distant, because heaven has been preparing you to recognize a shift you cannot afford to miss. Chosen one. There have been signs all around you, subtle yet undeniable. Conversations that left an echo. Numbers that repeated more than coincidence allows. Dreams that lingered in your chest long after you woke. Sudden flashes of insight that felt too sharp to dismiss. These were not random signals. They were divine breadcrumbs leading you into remembrance. Remembrance of who you are. Remembrance of what you carry. Remembrance of the destiny written over your spirit long before your first breath. Beloved, the reason your life felt like it slowed down is because God needed your attention. Not your performance, not your talent, your attention. You were walking too quickly to notice the whisper, so heaven shifted the pace until the whisper became a pull. That restlessness you felt was not emptiness, it was divine agitation. The Spirit shaking loose everything that cannot travel with you into your next season. And chosen ones, something else was happening beneath the surface. While you navigated your days trying to make sense of your emotions, heaven was fortifying your spiritual frame. God has been strengthening muscles you didn't know you had. Endurance, discernment, courage, spiritual authority. He was building stability inside you so the blessing coming your way will not overwhelm you the moment it arrives. Hear this with your whole being. Nothing God is bringing into your life will break you. It will build you. It will raise you. It will reveal you. Beloved soul, the heaviness you carried for so long is beginning to lift because the assignment attached to that heaviness is complete. The lessons buried inside those seasons have been extracted. The spiritual growth hidden inside those storms has matured. Heaven is releasing you from what once held you because it is time, truly time, for you to rise into alignment with the destiny that has been waiting with patience and fire. But before you step fully into that alignment, heaven needs you to understand the truth behind the pressure. A truth that has followed you for years without your awareness. Some of the hardest battles you fought were not triggered by your mistakes. They were triggered by your mission, your light unsettled shadows around you, your purpose-threatened forces assigned to delay you, your rising intimidated environments designed to keep you average. The warfare that surrounded you was shaped by the magnitude of what you carry. And chosen one, as you grew, the resistance grew. As you awakened, the enemy panicked. As you shed old identities, spiritual opposition tried to pull you back. But every attempt failed, every trap collapsed, every storm passed. Because heaven never allowed anything to touch your life unless it was shaping you for greater glory. Beloved, you are stepping into a level of clarity that will make every confusing season suddenly make sense. The betrayals, the emotional exhaustion, the strange silence, the abrupt endings, they were all connected. They were all part of heaven's choreography, protecting you from destinies that were never yours. And now, your true path, the one woven with purpose, abundance, and divine timing, is opening before you. Chosen one, before heaven reveals the next layer, let your spirit anchor this moment. If this truth is vibrating through you, stirring something deep, release another declaration into the atmosphere, one sharp and certain: I awaken now. Because what comes next is the revelation that defines everything. Chosen one. As this revelation draws nearer, the spiritual current around your life tightens like a storm pulling itself into formation. You can feel it even now. A hum beneath your ribs, a pressure behind your eyes, a strange awareness blooming in the quiet parts of your mind. This is not tension. This is recognition. Your spirit knows what your mind is only beginning to grasp. Heaven is preparing to uncover the real story behind your battles. Beloved soul, for too long you have carried questions that had no shape. Why did certain seasons feel impossibly heavy? Why did specific relationships crumble without warning? Why did your spirit recoil from some people for reasons you could not name? Why did your progress stall right when you were closest to breakthrough? These questions did not linger because of confusion. They lingered because heaven had not yet granted permission for certain truths to surface. But now, the hour of unveiling has come. You must understand this. The spiritual realm reacts to your rising long before your natural life does. The resistance you felt was not because you were weak. It was because you were becoming dangerous. Dangerous to darkness, dangerous to limitation, dangerous to cycles that once dictated your steps. The adversary does not fight the ordinary. He fights the anointed. He fights the aligned. He fights the awakened. And chosen one, you have been awakening. This is why patterns that once controlled you began to break unexpectedly. This is why people who carried hidden intentions were suddenly removed. This is why your spirit outgrew environments your body still lived in. This is why your discernment sharpened until silence felt louder than words. Heaven was preparing you to see what you once survived blindly. Beloved, there is a truth very few understand. Your destiny has always been visible in the spirit, even when it felt invisible to you. Angels recognized your calling long before you recognized your own strength. Demons recognized your future long before you had language for your purpose. Spiritual opposition recognized your mantle long before you learned to value your voice. This is why you were attacked in childhood before you had words for identity. This is why you were wounded by people who should have protected you. This is why rejection met you in moments you needed acceptance most. This is why heartbreak found you right when you were closest to hope. You were targeted early, not because you were fragile, but because you were chosen. Beloved soul, the spiritual resistance that followed you was not random. It was strategic, calculated, intentional, and heaven saw all of it. Not once were you unprotected. Not once were you abandoned. Not once did God lose sight of you, even in nights where despair felt louder than prayer. Chosen one, the pressure that tried to suffocate you was permitted only to shape you. Everything the enemy used to break you, God repurposed to build you. Your loneliness strengthened your discernment. Your disappointment refined your priorities. Your heartbreak shattered your illusions. Your struggle awakened your authority. Your endurance expanded your spiritual capacity. You are no longer who you were. Heaven knows it. Hell fears it. Your spirit feels it. And now, you are being prepared to understand it. Beloved, the truth heaven is guiding you toward is not meant to wound you. It is meant to free you. There were forces, both human and spiritual, that sought to delay your destiny. Not all of them were malicious. Some were simply misaligned. But misalignment can be as dangerous as opposition when your calling carries generational weight. Certain people in your life did not betray you because they were evil. They betrayed you because your spirit outgrew their understanding. Certain opportunities did not fail because you were unworthy. They failed because your destiny required a different path. Certain seasons did not linger because you were stuck. They lingered because God was still building the version of you that could carry what comes next. Chosen one, heaven has been preparing your heart to withstand a truth so liberating, so clarifying, that once you receive it, you will never again question your worth, your purpose, or your path. Before we cross into that truth, pause with me. Let your spirit exhale. Let the weight of the moment settle. And if this word is resonating deeper than language, release a declaration into the atmosphere, a strong, blazing one. I walk in truth. Because the next revelation is the reason your whole life has felt like a battle for territory. Chosen one, as this chapter of your journey reaches its threshold, feel the air around you steady. The trembling in your spirit is not fear, it is confirmation. What has been rising within you, that quiet push, that inner expansion, that sharpened awareness, is heaven preparing to shift you from revelation into realization. Beloved soul, everything you've walked through in this unfolding has been leading you to a single truth. Your life has never been random. Every battle, every pause, every detour, every unexpected turn has been woven into a design that carries the fingerprint of God. You have survived storms meant to distract you. You have outgrown cycles meant to contain you. You have risen from wounds that would have silenced others. And now, the weight of the unseen is settling into alignment. You are no longer standing in confusion. You are standing in convergence. You are no longer wandering in questions. You are approaching clarity. A clarity that has been maturing beneath your ribs for years. Chosen one, heaven has not brought you this far to leave you in uncertainty. The revelation that waits beyond this point is the one that explains the warfare, unlocks the patterns, and reveals the meaning behind every spiritual tremor you've felt in recent days. Pause here for a moment. Feel your breath deepen. Let your chest rise. You are stepping out of the fog that once clouded your path and into the illumination that has been prepared for you since the first moment God whispered destiny over your life. And beloved, before we cross into the next unfolding, seal this moment with intention. If your spirit is awake, if your heart is steady, if something inside you says, "This is my hour," then let the unseen hear your agreement. Type, "I'm ready" in the comments, not as noise, but as testimony. And hear me, if this journey is speaking to you, if you feel heaven drawing you closer, make sure to subscribe, like, and share before we continue. Not out of routine, but because doing so becomes a way of anchoring yourself to the revelations that are shaping your next season. It keeps you connected to messages that feed your awakening instead of starving it. Now breathe, chosen one. The next part carries the wisdom that activates everything. Chosen one, before we step into the sacred work of this next unfolding, let your heart settle into stillness. You have walked through revelation, and now you are being invited into application, the holy practice that turns insight into transformation. Heaven does not reveal without purpose. Every truth you've received was meant to shape the way you move, the way you think, the way you choose, the way you rise. This is where alignment becomes lifestyle. Beloved soul, hear me. The first shift begins within. You must tend to the inner ground before the outer blessings can take root. Begin your mornings not with urgency, but with intention. When your eyes open, pause. Let your breath deepen. Whisper into the quiet, "Guide me today, Lord." This small act bends the atmosphere. It places your spirit ahead of your schedule, your purpose ahead of your impulses, your destiny ahead of your distractions. This is spiritual anchoring. This is how you build days that carry meaning instead of motion. Then, chosen one, start clearing the spiritual clutter that has clung to your soul. Thoughts that accuse you, patterns that drain you, memories that tighten your chest. These are not harmless, they are weights. Sit with them for a moment each day and speak truth into them. Say, "You no longer lead me." Heaven moves where your agreement shifts. Release what no longer reflects the person God is shaping you into. Let the residue of old battles fall away like dust shaken from your feet. Next, create space. In your environment and in your heart. Open your windows, organize your room, remove objects that carry old versions of you. Physical clearing is spiritual clearing. As you make room in your surroundings, heaven makes room in your path. Abundance flows where stagnation is broken. Financial stability strengthens where order is established. Emotional healing accelerates where peace is prioritized. These are not chores, these are prophetic acts. And beloved, stay sensitive to the whispers. Heaven will often nudge you through the smallest impressions. A sudden reluctance, a quiet pull, a sense that something is off. Honor these signals. They are not random, they are protective. When you follow the small guidance, you unlock the large blessings. This is how destiny alignment becomes a daily rhythm. This is how chosen ones walk.